All right, so we're going to learn how to solve rational equations. Okay, so when we have something like this where there's a fraction on one side and a fraction on the other, and we've got these x's, we're going to use the cross multiplying method. Okay, so what I mean by that is you're going to take this x times this x minus 4. So you're going to do this, x times x minus 4. And then you're going to multiply x minus 6 times 1. So 1 times x minus 6. Okay? So that's your first step. You're going to cross multiply. Now you're actually going to multiply everything out and then solve. Okay, so what I mean by solve is isolate x by itself. So when you do that, you're going to get x times x. That's going to give me x squared. X times negative 4. That's going to give me negative 4x. Over here, I'm going to have 1 times x. That's going to give me x. 1 times negative 6. That's going to give me negative 6. And again, our goal is to get x by itself. So we're going to add everything to the other side or subtract everything to the other side. So we're going to change the signs of these. So we're going to subtract this x from both sides. And that's going to cancel this out. And I'm left over with x squared minus 5x. And I want to add this 6 to the other side as well. So we want everything on one side. So now if I'm trying to solve this, I can do it either of two ways. I can either use the quadratic formula or I can factor. On this one, I would probably factor just because it's easily factorable. So I'm going to do my big X method. My a times c is going to give me 6, and my b is going to give me negative 5. So I'm going to think of two numbers that if I multiply together, I get 6. If I add them together, I get negative 5. So that's going to be negative 3 and negative 2. And I'm going to write that in my factored form. So that's going to give me x minus 3 times x minus 2. Yeah. What numbers did you use?
Oh, right.
Okay. Yeah, so if you use the wrong numbers, you just want to make sure that you add them together to get negative 5. That's always going to be your safe bet. So if you set both of these parentheses equal to 0, you're going to get x equals 3 and x equals 2. All right, so now on this next one, we're going to cross multiply. And hopefully you tried this one on your own. I know it's probably you didn't. All right, so x times x minus 2 over here. I'm going to set that equal to 3 times 1. That's going to give me 3. So now I'm going to distribute. So x times x is going to give me x squared. X times negative 2 is going to give me negative 2x. I'm going to set that equal to 3. So again, my goal is to get x by itself. So we're going to move everything to one side so that we can solve for x. So we're going to get x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. And now we're going to either factor or use the quadratic formula. I, again, would probably factor on this one just because it's easy numbers. So a times c is going to give me negative 3, and b is going to be negative 2. So what two numbers will make that happen? Negative 3 and 1. So this will give me x minus 3 times x plus 1. And if I set these both equal to 0 and solve, I'm going to get x equals 3 and x equals negative 1. How many of y'all got that right? Yeah. No, just me. Okay.
Nope.
All right. All right. So on number 3, we're going to have that same process. Again, you can try this one on your own and then check your work in about 10 seconds. All right. So hopefully you gave that a try. So you're going to cross multiply on those. And when you do this, you're going to get x squared minus 1x. equals 6x plus 18. Again, your goal is to get everything on one side so that you can either factor or use the quadratic formula. So we're going to subtract 6x from both sides, and we're going to subtract 18 from both sides. And when we do that, we're going to get x squared minus 7x minus 18 equals 0. We're going to do our big X method. So we're going to take our a times c is going to give us negative 18, and our b is going to be negative 7. So the two numbers that will make that happen is negative 9 and 2. Set it up in factored form. Set each of these equal to 0, and solve. How many of y'all got that right? Yes. Okay. LCD is least common denominator. Yeah. All right, ready to move on? Should I scroll? Okay. All right, so on number 4, this one's a little different. So we're going to multiply by the LCD, which is the least common denominator. Okay, least common denominator. Feeling like a whole one, Khan Academy. And hopefully I didn't spell denominator wrong. Somebody check that. Okay, so for this one, what's going to happen is we want the same denominator multiplied by, like, all the way through. So for instance, if I factored this guy right here, I would get x minus 3 times x plus 3, right? Like if you did the big X and all that, you get that, right? Okay, so in the denominator, what would be my common denominator? What would be my common denominator? We have x minus 3 times x plus 3. That's the common denominator that we want, right? It's just like back in like 3rd grade when you were like, yeah, okay, all right, pause. This is like 6th grade, okay? And your teacher was like, okay, solve for x, right? And you would have to multiply by 3 in the top and 4 right here. That, exactly? Nope. Okay, just me. All right, so we're going to erase that. Listen. All right, so what we're going to do here is we want to get rid of that denominator by multiplying by the least common denominator. So what I mean by that is we're going to take this first fraction, and we're going to multiply by x minus 3 times x plus 3. Okay, so we're going to multiply by x minus 3 times x plus 3. What's up? Because we're trying to get rid of it. We will in a second, yeah. And then we're going to multiply this guy by the exact same thing. So x plus 3, x minus 3. We're going to multiply it all the way through, okay? So all I've done so far is multiply by the least common denominator, and that is that x minus 3 times x plus 3. Man, my handwriting is bad. Okay, so now, kind of like what she said, we're going to cancel out stuff, right? Yes. Sorry. All right, so we're going to cancel out stuff. So if it's in the top and the bottom, we can cancel those out, right? So this x minus 3 and this x minus 3 is going to disappear. This x plus 3 and this x plus 3 are going to disappear. And then all this mess over here is going to cancel out. Remember, x squared minus 9 is that x minus 3 times x plus 3. Yes, because they're the same thing. So now I'm going to take everything that I didn't cancel out and rewrite it. Okay, so that's going to look like this. So now I've turned this into not fractions, which is pretty dope, right? So ain't nobody like fractions. All right, so now I'm going to distribute and I'm going to solve. So x times x is going to give me x squared. X times 3 is going to give me 3x. Over here, 2x times x is going to give me 2x squared. 2x times negative 3 is going to give me negative 6x. The best of both worlds. X squared plus 2x squared is 3x squared. 3x minus 6x is going to give me negative 3x. And I'm going to move this 18 to the other side. by subtracting it, right? Number 4, right? Like, we're still not done. So on here, what's going to happen is we've got to solve for x, okay? So either you're going to factor or you can use the quadratic formula. So which one would y'all like to use? Yeah, I would probably use the quadratic formula on this one too, just because I really can't think of, well, let's try factoring really quick. So what's 3 times negative 18? 54. Negative 54. Okay, and then I've got negative 3 down here. So what two numbers do you know that if you multiply them together, you get 54? Add them together. Negative 9 and 6. That's all right. It's all right. Okay, but you do have to use the box method on this one because my leading coefficient is bigger than 1. Okay, so when I do the box method, look at that great box. Yes. I'm going to take my first term, put it in my first box. Last term, put it in the last box. And these 2 terms I just found, I'm going to slap that x onto it. And put, we don't hit things. Yeah. Slap the x onto it and put it inside the box. Then I'm going to take the greatest common factor of the columns and rows. Okay, so from this one, that's going to be 3x. From this one, that's going to be negative 9. Over here, that's going to be 1x. And over here, that's going to be 2. Okay, and the way I check that is by saying, what times 3x gives me 3x squared? Okay. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this in factored form. So this is going to give me 3x minus 9 times x plus 2. I'm going to set both of these equations equal to 0, and I'm going to solve. So 3x minus 9 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. And I know the people in the back can't see this. So when I solve, I'm going to get x equals negative 2, and x equals 9 over 3, which is 3. Oh, yeah. Okay, all right, so on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to factor this guy right here. So that's going to give me x minus 3 times x minus 2. Again, if you need help on factoring, there is a video online. Okay, so this is going to be my greatest common factor, or least common denominator. Boom. Okay, so we're going to take everything and multiply by this guy. So when I do that, I'm going to get this. Look at all of this. Yeah. Okay, and then remember, the reason why we're doing this is so that we get rid of that denominator, because ain't nobody like fractions, right? Ain't nobody like fractions. P2 likes fractions on a good day, y'all. Get stoked. All right, so once you do this, then you're going to see that you can cancel out some stuff. So this x minus 2, this x minus 3, and these things. Okay? What you're left with is x times x minus 3 and x times x minus 2 and equals 3. Okay? So we're going to multiply these out. That's going to give me x squared minus 3x plus x squared minus 2x equals 3. Going to combine my like terms. So that's going to give me 2x squared minus 5x. And I'm going to move this 3 to the other side by subtracting it. So that's going to give me minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to factor this. So I'm going to get the big X. So 8 times C is going to give me negative 6. My B is going to be negative 5. What two numbers will make that happen? Negative 6 and 1. Put it in the box. I've got 30 seconds. I've got this. All right, so yeah. If I take the greatest common factor from each thing, or the least common factor, what do they have in common? I'm scared. I'm not going to make it. I think I messed up. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pause. So you factor this and you get 2x plus 1 and x minus 3. You set both of them equal to 0 and then you solve. Yes.